knowing and doing art is two different things. Maybe whatever we're doing right now or whatever we're wearing right now, it's in the arts, right? People would like to separate science and art, but they're actually intertwined together.
Bawat isa sa atin ay hiblang magkakaplay.
Art history, there are Filipino art books, dyan Western art and art processes.
Good afternoon, sir. I am actually Evangelista of San Pedro College, first year in BSPT, Physical Therapy, and these are my colleagues.
My name is Marizel Joy for Oribello, classmate of Ashley.
I am Keana Rey, Iñigo po.
And I am Elmer Jr.
Okay, I'm Wilfred Dexter G. Tañedo, formally, but my name is Rob Tañedo as an artist.
Okay, so how old were you when you already had the inclination in arts, and what were you doing then?
Okay, I started, as far as I could remember, at 3 years old. I was trying to imitate the works of my brother and sister. But prior to that one, the family has always been in the arts. My dad is a graduate of the Fine Arts program of UP. And I have a grandfather who works with comics before. And I have also relatives who are into the arts.
How did your parents respond to your talent? Were they against it at first or very supportive?
I think my mom really knows what she was supposed to do because she's a psychologist. So what she did, she would just buy, one ream of paper and give it to us rather than us painting on the walls. So we kept on practicing, but the real passion and the real seriousness to the art really came in only in college. Because in college, I had my first brush of being rejected with my art. I thought I was doing good, but I was not doing good. So in college, I started to really seriously commit to it, basically.
And then nag-support po sila, sir, yung parents mo when you were serious na po sa college?
Actually, my dad is not really supportive that I enter the creatives or fine arts program. Coincidentally, he is a fine art graduate, but he wanted me to become a doctor. So I actually entered in BS Bio in De La Salle University. And but it's a good course. It's really, I'm also a person who loves science, actually.
So, who do you look up in your field of art, and then why?
That would be, it would consume all of our time if I'm going to mention who's who. But there are many people that I admire depending on the specialization that they do or even the art style and technique. But on the top of my head, if you talk about comic book art, I've always been very in love with the style of Michael Turner because he did my favorite comic book character, Witchblade. For art history and art writing, I would go for Mr. Ruben Cañete, because he became my teacher in art criticism and I really like the way he handles it. Very accessible way of talking to the arts. But if I want a more intellectual approach, I would go for Dr. Patrick Flores in terms of writing. For painters, for Filipino classicism, I would love to say Juan Luna, supposedly, but after seeing the actual work of Felix Resurrection Hidalgo, it has to be Mr. Resurrection Hidalgo coming out as a better artist than Juan Luna. It's just Juan Luna has a very controversial life. Okay, but Resurrection style and technique is really impeccable. In terms of the post-colonial period or the birth of the modern art period, I would go for both Amorsolo and Tolentino in terms of their classic Filipino way of doing art. But it's okay also to mention some of our modernists like Edades, who's very bold strokes. They came in strong. And in the contemporary art scene, there's Mark Giustiani with his Mirror series. Basically.
How about for this
Sculptures
sculptures?
Sculptures. These are my teacher in sculpture would be C.S. Moore, basically. I collect most of his sculptures and he does comic book statues, so more on the commercial style. Since I mentioned that I'm into comic books a while back, so most of these are actually based on comic books or art illustrations. Seldom do I really do fine art work. Fine artwork would be something similar to this, abstractions, distortions. This one is more on something that you could possibly see on comics or book illustrations. In fact, this one, I did an illustration back in college, but I did the actual work in 2015. So that's like a decade and a half away from my college time. So sometimes I do my work from my previous drawings or paintings. Yes, that's the kamoting kahoy.
Which one? Yung
This one,
light?
this one,
Ah,
this one.
okay.
One
Yan.
made out of the
Yan. You'll be able to see the fibers. Yan.
kasama.
Yan.
Among the works of art of the person you said a while ago, the persons, among sa kanila po, saan po doon yung pinakamaganda and why?
Or yung
For you po.
pinaka-favorite mo po?
Pinaka-favorite niyo po.
Marami. Don't make me pick something that But I would go for the hindi ko rin na-mention yung person like Gustav Klimt. I mean, I would go for the Art Nouveau style. I think you'd be able to see the Art Nouveau influence with the selection of the wave lines that I chose or the curvilinear lines approach. Ayun lang, I just find it very nice and flowing. Hindi siya intimidating or squarish as this one. So most of the works you'll be able to see that influence. So it's a Gustav Klimt or Art Nouveau na influence.
Interesting.
Okay, so can you show us 5 of your works and explain what style and technique you use?
Okay. So the type of sculpture that I'm doing is what we call modeling technique. Modeling technique means you start from scratch to create your work, because the other technique is the subtractive technique, or wherein you carve out or subtract the object to be able to create your image. So I start from scratch. So works that I started from scratch, that one, the Fire Maiden, the Playful Nymph, they really started from scratch. So I started with wires, something similar to what you're seeing at the back. Ganon, and then I placed clay on it and create my image. But I also learned later on, I also love the concept of infusing my work into existing objects. I always go for driftwoods or twigs, because I find again the curves very soothing and creates a certain imagination in me. So I would fuse images on them, just like this one, the Transformation, and also this one, the Enchantry series. Now this one I first did in 2020 for a January exhibit, Cristo. This one is actually inspired by the Stigmata. So,
Sorry, ano po yan?
Stigmata, yung kay Jesus Christ, yung Stigmata, the 5 wounds of Jesus Christ. Okay, so if you're going to look at it, you'll be able to see yung sa hands niya, yung dalawang paa, and ito yung wound dun sa kanyang side, dun sa ribs niya na yun. Ayun siya. So, it's a representation of Christ. So, after doing this one, tsaka ako ginawa yung painting. This one was exhibited in Davao. This one was exhibited in Ortigas Center. So, it's actually what we call an intermedia art, wherein there are 2 art disciplines that are meant to interact. So, I did a sculpture and I did the painting version of that one.
So,
Follow-up
wait lang,
question.
sorry lang, wait lang. So, what are your favorite mediums to use, sir? What are your favorite materials to use?
Okay, so the most favorite material would always be epoxy clay. It's the one that I've been using since 2007. But recently, I've been trying out air dry clay. But it's something that I'm not too confident about. That's why most of my works, if it's air dry clay, I'm not very keen in selling it. I have to wait for a decade or more for me to see the effect of my work with this kind of medium. But with epoxy clay, I have my oldest work done in 2007 that's still existing right now. So actually, it's not really pure epoxy clay. Underneath some of these are actually modeling clay. The ordinary clay that we use in class, and then I just put on top of it modeling clay. So what it acts on is fillers, so that you'll be able to, makatipid ka. Because mahal yung material eh. That's one way to save up with the materials. And there's no adverse effect with that one. Yan.
And then seal, is it called seal? Do you still seal yung
Yeah. I mean, when you paint on it, you really have to put varnish on top of. That's why they're semi-glossy. Some of the works I do not make glossy, but this one, since it's faux bronze, I make sure that it's glossy. But there's some works that I prefer for a matte finish for it. That is an extra protection also for the work.
Okay, so follow-up question to what I asked kanina. What is the message or theme of each work? Especially this one, because you already explained
Oh, this one is more religious. This one is more on the, I think it's more of the mythological aspect. That's the theme. Myths, legends, with a romantic interlude for this one. Even this one, I find romantic. The transformation is actually, you don't know if she's transforming to a mermaid or if she's transforming into humans. I also love this piece because my students back then, I asked what kind of nymph should I make? Should I make a wood nymph or a water nymph? So they said, gawain nyo na lang mermaid, sir. So I did a mermaid for them. I actually have 2 versions of this and 2 versions of this one as well. So I do variations of my work as well. While these 2 are based on the elements of fire and
water.
Earth. Wala pa akong water. So I'm still at the process of doing water and air. The most difficult is air because you have to make sure that there are many pocket holes that you could see through the object.
So where do you find your inspiration po, sir? Na diba
For
you said kanina sometimes you look back sa yung old drawings mo and then make mo into something solid. So what if you want to make something new? Where do you find your inspiration for that?
Really depends. Sometimes when you're just like for this one, I just found it while my house was being made. So the shape was just right, and that's why I'm inspired to do something what I did before. Same is true with this particular driftwood. We were at SM parking area. There was someone selling the driftwood, so I decided to buy it because I like the shape. So you sometimes imagine the technique that I call for this one and this one is what I call fuse sculptures, because you technically fuse your sculpture to what is an existing object already. So it could not be limited to wood, it could also be a toy, it could also be a table, things like those. So it's more of a bas-relief.
So diffuse lang po yung mga epoxy.
Yes, you fuse that one.
That's why it's called
Fuse sculpture, that's how I call it for these 2. For the rest, it's the regular modeling sculptures, 3D standalone sculptures. And some of the works, I just didn't brought the cloche. They have a cloche actually, or the glass dome. I kind of like the concept of putting them in glass because most people, they don't know how to interact with sculpture, so they end up damaging. So if you put them in cloche, at least it's one way to protect them. And sometimes, nakita nyo naman, ang daming nooks and crannies, it's so difficult to clean. In cleaning them, you really have to use really fine brushes, otherwise you'll break off the parts.
Kung pressurized air, is it?
It's not advisable because especially on air dry clay, they're kind of brittle. If it's epoxy clay, it's okay, but for the other one, no, it's not. So it's things that you have to know how to take care of them also.
So how long does one art piece, how long does one parang sculpture take for you to make po ba?
Oh, really depends. If it's just going to sum up everything in 2 to 3 days, it's just enough. But epoxy clay, you have to wait for it to dry for 24 hours. So you could have worked with it for only 4 hours and you have to stop, wait for the following day to do the other next one. You cannot really also push it too much that you keep on putting the medium, otherwise it will sag or it will fall off because it cannot support its weight. So you have to give it time to cure, basically.
So how long was yung longest mo na? How long and what was it po?
The longest work that I ever did,
Yes.
I was able to finish it after 8 years because I was too busy. 8 years because I was too damn busy with my work. And then the audacity of one of my staff held it up and placed it and then fell out na nasira siya. So now I don't have the heart to really fix it up. So it's a damaged piece already. It's one of my favorite piece pa naman din.
Also, among your original works, not including this, which is your favorite work and why?
I don't have any specific favorite work because all of them would have their own time with me. But if there's something that I could say, excuse me, if there's something that I could say about artworks or my artworks is that after I'm finished with them, I try not to look at them too much because otherwise I would find mistakes with them. So I keep on. So I have to really stop myself from too much editing my work. You know, that's sometimes the problem with artists. They really they get too OC to fix up any problems or technical issues.
What's your opinion on the stereotypes around artists po? Like, some people would discourage aspiring artists po. Like, magsabi sila na, you need to be that great in order to be famous kung gusto mo maging artist. Kasi paminsan din, small income lang yan. Wala ka nang ibang mapatunguhan sa buhay. Like, what's your opinion about that po?
So the stereotype that they think the artist, the creative doesn't earn much. Parang ganon. Well, somebody who's been there, it's not. I mean, there are many people that I've seen. Just recently, the one that you just saw, si Sir Virgilio, he's actually handling the career of one artist in Manila who recently just built his 10 million mansion in Manila. And that was just 7 years ago. And that was just 7 years ago. It's all about, in doing arts, you just need to know how to navigate the field and know where your style is and then really be able to deliver it to your target market. I mean, maybe in Davao it's not working, but if you go to other places, it might. But, that's why we built this place, La Herencia, to be able to be a point where artists could be able to show their works. And if you study art further, you'll realize if the community keeps on seeing art, they'll start appreciating art. And it will also improve their taste, and probably it will build that market that we really need, basically. There is a market naman but it's not yet big. We want to be more inclusive with that one. Yan.
If you didn't choose the path of being an artist, what profession would you have chosen?
Oh, definitely either a doctor or a scientist. I mean, I do love science. I could have been also a business person, which I'm currently also doing, but more focused to it. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, education or being a teacher has been part of me also. So, but it's in relation to science. I teach biology also, and I also teach art, but it's more on art than biology. Marami na mga biology teacher So
now,
sa art na lang.
Still teaching biology now?
No, I stopped teaching sometime in 2019 already. So, I'm more focused now as the art coordinator and property manager of La Herencia.
So, na-graduate po kayo ng BS Bio in De La Salle. And then, wala na po kayo nag-pursue ng medicine because of art.
Or science course?
No, I actually pursued my master's in business administration, which I finished in the Ateneo de Davao. So, my business degree ako. I have education units for me to become a professional teacher. I also took some fine arts workshops, and I did study briefly in Italy for sculpture, just to learn the old technical process of doing sculpture.
To which i-apply yung dito.
Yeah, but iba yung sculpture nila doon. We make use of actual clay. I mean, volcanic ash mixed with sand. So, it's a different medium. But the concept is still the same, but their approach is somewhat different to it.
If doctors treat patients and engineers build structures, for you, what is the role of an artist in the society?
Oh, they have lots. I mean, whatever we're doing right now or whatever we're wearing right now, it's in the arts, right? Science would not be born without arts. People would like to separate science and art, but they are actually intertwined together. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci could be to attest to that one.
Kaya na lang po yung mga design sa buildings.
Tama, di ba? For
Architecture.
And architecture, it's the application for that one. Design, typeface, ayun. So, ang role ng other than that, we also represent the soul of humanity. Kaya nga humanities yung subject, di ba? Because it makes us human, basically. Also, all art is really made by humans. Ayun ang doon. Kahit yung mga AI, sino yung gumawa sa AI? It's the humans, di ba? So, it's one sign that That's who we are.
So, as you mentioned po na La Herencia is created or built or was founded to help artists po. So, is there any other way na you help aspiring artists or young artists?
Yeah, I'm still involved with the Department of Education as a consultant for the K-12 program, specifically in the arts. So I write sometimes part of our curriculum or suggest to them what would best fit our students from kinder up to grade 12. And sometimes I do help also sa CHED. I give advices also on how to attack the subjects based on the K-12 program as well.
Yes. Kanina pa.
Yeah, that's just one of the ways. I also do workshops, sometimes for free. I also not teach only students, but also teachers how to teach art properly, more on the process and the context of work. Now, there is a strong focus now also in art history and context, because sometimes we keep on doing something but we don't know the reason behind it. So it's important to understand it better so that you'll appreciate it more.
Do you also have mga young artists na you sponsor in a way?
La Herencia would always sponsor about 12 exhibits for free. For free. So we spend for their catering, we spend for their use of the place. That's part of our commitment to the community. And of course, we do mga outreach programs also. I support those communities as well.
So last question po, sir. What is your message to young artists who have talents in painting or sculpting in order to be successful in their field or to motivate them po?
Okay, my message to the young artists: don't stop drawing, don't start doing your art. Be open also. Knowing and doing art is two different things, but they complement each other. When you say knowing, it means you really have to study, you have to go around. It's not just about you, it's also about your community. Especially in contemporary times, we have to be more empathic of our environment. And also in the part wherein you're creating your art, you really have to really know the technique that you're using, because at the end of the day, if you're selling an artwork, you do want it to last also. Also be consistent. I mean, know also the type of market that you're dealing with. So in terms of price, if you're starting, don't price it too high. Gauge first where you are as an artist, and you get to know it by going around. Basically, most of the artists that we're having here right now are actually established, but the price is somewhat affordable. It's not because they're shortchanging or anything, it's because they want their art to be out there. Because if it's always out there, people would get to know them better. Then later on, less art, but bigger price. So those are strategies that you could do. So ayun yung part rin ng knowing, know how to market your work as well.
Okay.
Thank you.